Putting the Puzzle Pieces Together by Diane Neiman, and my project was on Verbal Victor, and the goal was to engage an autistic child so that they would begin to show some signs of conversing other than hand motions or pointing and starting to use their voice. And I chose Verbal Victor as my project. So the first thing that I wanted to answer with this project was how learning can be improved compared to not having the technology available. So I'm going to back out of this because I want to point out the cards over here. So we're going to go over here to the PECs. So normally, if we didn't have Verbal Victor, this is how a special ed teacher would be communicating with a child, or a parent would be communicating with a child who has difficulty with speech. They would be using the picture exchange communication system called PECs. Now these usually a teacher has on a Velcro board, or she has them on a keychain, and she's walking around the room with a lanyard around her neck with these little icons cut out with a punch hole on them, wrapped on this little keychain, and it's very cumbersome. So that was the first thing. And Verbal Victor is computer and it's technology, which is exciting, especially for a child with autism. So what I wrote for how their learning could be improved: students with learning disabilities are more likely to be engaged with an electronic device than with paper cards. And the second key point I wrote was students with learning disabilities are more likely to be too engaged in technology, which was the point here that I have from Grandin, that they have autistic children or children with speech impediments. They have a tendency to receive information a little bit slower than you and I use the analogy of they're like a dial-up rather than a high-speed internet connection. So you have to be very conscious of that fact. You don't want to overload them with too much. So a lot of times children who have a speech problem wear these headphones over here to calm down the environment. That's one way of easing them into a situation. And again, safety is important and calmness is important. So what Verbal Victor does is it allows you to engage the child because they like technology, hear their own voice, and take it on their own level. So they'd be wearing those headphone sets, and it would be more personable for them. So I did make a comment that you need to I wrote here, I said, they're more likely to be engaged in technology to the point of becoming obsessive. Therefore, the use of it needs to be monitored and used effectively. Using Verbal Victor requires the student to focus on the task at hand, for example, asking for something that they want. So let's go back to here. My other key point was students with learning disabilities can improve their speech through Verbal Victor by using familiar voices like their own or family members, which brings them comfort and a sense of security, which is the key point I said earlier. Now, I did do a lot of research on other products that they were using out there. And Preschool Touch and Sequencing Task Life Skills were both very good products, but I think the reason why I really focused on Verbal Victor was for its simplicity, especially for teachers and parents and therapists. It's a user-friendly interface. So let me zoom back out again. And I did more research than I probably needed to do on this project, especially right here. I got caught up in what caused the autism, but I think the key thing is to be aware that this is an issue and it's on the rise in America. And so a program like Verbal Victor is going to be handy for people that you'll be seeing more and more people with their iPhones out, most likely, to communicate with their child and pointing at the Verbal Victor application on their iPhone or on their iPad to communicate rather than walking around with those cards. Because if you think of it also, it's not very attractive looking, to be carrying those cards. Now, does it work? I did do research on that as well, and that was my studies that I found on the PEC cards. So PEC cards is exactly what Verbal Victor is. Verbal Victor is the PEC cards only on a digital device. You're able to upload an image instantly and then record your voice to the image. So here is an improvement. And again, the reason why you see improvements on these charts is because they're in a safe environment. And I focused in on home, therapist, vocalization, home, parent, home, parent. So, the school environment tends to be too noisy. Distractions occur there with other children. And then again, you have the issue of emerging a student that has these disabilities into a normal, regular school environment. So naturally, I think, again, verbal victor could be another key thing. They could be walking around the school with their verbal victor in their hand and communicating, and I think we would see a lot more improvement. And it's exciting. I mean, the man who invented it even, and how he did it for his son, it's easy to navigate. Oop, let me get back there. It's easy to navigate. It's easy to upload an image or record a voice. The interface is very friendly. It's simple. It is. It's a simple 1, 2, 3 device, and I think that's handy, especially when you're dealing with a child with autism. The simpler the better for both the family, because it's so stressful as it is. So that is my presentation. I'm going to see if I have more notes here. The PECS cards, again, I want to reiterate, they're cumbersome, specific to needs, availability, the carry on the chain, verbal victor, and its ease of use. What was learned from my research? Discrepancy about vaccinations. That was the key part up here that I mostly learned about on that one. That a child regresses at 6 months or 18 months, and their vaccinations were being pointed at along with high mercury levels. The increase of what we're about to see in America in terms of autism on the rise. How can we prevent things besides verbal victor to help a child improve their speech? Would be through diet and a thing called chelation, and I kind of went into that here. Brain balance really works. Brain balance centers are developing all over America, and he focuses on sensory motor exercises, cognitive activities, and nutritional guidance. So it's not just that verbal victor is going to work all on its own, but it also is important to change a child's diet and to work on their sensory motor exercises, getting them outside. So that is what I discovered, besides the fact that there really are no applications out there for a child to help them improve their speaking. And I think the other reason why I think verbal victor is going to work is it's personalized and it's simple. I think those are my two key things. Nonverbal children and adults will find it easier to associate words with pictures if they see the printed word and a picture on a flashcard. So Verbal Victor offers that not on a flashcard, but on the actual iPad or iPhone or Android. I meant to put that in there as well. Some individuals do not understand line drawing, so it is recommended to work with real objects and photos first. So Verbal Victor has that advantage because you're taking instant photos and just uploading them and then putting your voice to it, and the child can ask. I give the demonstration on how to use Verbal Victor, which is up here, and you can see that on my Prezi. So hopefully I covered everything. I'm going to stop that right now. Again, it was a great project. I probably put more information in than was needed, but I had a great time on the project, and I hope to do more projects based on software for children with special needs, because there is none out there. Thank you.